Well, hello there, Rip City. It is 3 o'clock in the afternoon here in a beautiful Sunday afternoon in Portland. The rain's gone away, but the sports, they have remained. Plenty to get to. First off, in the NBA, rumors are abound that the Los Angeles Clippers are getting close to signing UConn's Dan Hurley to be their next head coach. This comes on the tails of some rumors of J.J. Redick being in the fold just yesterday. So we'll see what happens here. But it sounds like Dan Hurley is the man. That's an interesting one to watch. Also in the NBA, game one of the NBA Finals going down tonight, 5:30 tip. It's Dallas at Boston. You got Team Luka or you got Team Tatum? Which one? We'll find out who gets the 1-0 lead here in about 2.5 hours. Chris Burkhardt here filling in for Chad, doing the Godfather to my left. The Rip City Drive starts next. Well, hello there. Welcome into the Rip City Drive. Chris Burkhardt here filling in for Chad doing today. He's on he's on a baseball excursion. He's what I heard on the radio the other day. What a lucky son of a gun he is, man.
Yankees and Dodgers in Yankee Stadium. How good is that?
That sounds phenomenal. Sounds phenomenal. I wonder if he's going to stay true to his word. And I wonder if he's going to call old Mitch in Jersey and meet up with him. And yeah, you got to meet up with him over at the old Cake Boss's spot in Hoboken or something. Be as touristy as possible doing.
Yeah, I think Mitch is bailing out on that. I don't think Mitch wants to do it.
It's probably the wise move. That's probably the wise move.
Yeah.
You've been over there to that new Yankee Stadium?
Oh, yeah. A couple of years ago.
Oh, nice.
I've been there a couple of times, actually. I like it. It's just too big, though. You know, that's the thing. It's nothing like the smaller ballparks that are more intimate and more fun. Like, I kind of prefer Shea Stadium to the Yankee Stadium.
Right.
Yankee Stadium is just enormous. It is so big. But it's a nice ballpark. They do a good job there. Concessions are good. You know, there's nothing to complain about. Easy to get to on the subway. So I like that part of it. But I prefer to go to a game in San Francisco or even Seattle, Atlanta. All those smaller ballparks are more fun.
Yeah, I would agree. I haven't been to Yankee Stadium, but I like a nice, small, intimate ballpark myself, Dwight. But I am a little jealous. I would not mind being in New York to watch Yankees, Dodgers.
Especially Dodgers with Ohtani versus Judge.
Yeah, when with the way Judge is playing right now, too.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, Ohtani, too. They're both tearing it up.
Yeah, it's unreal. So, baseball, I do quite enjoy it, and got some good baseball going on locally too. I know you had some talk about it yesterday, but super regionals. You got the Ducks and the Beavers both playing well, which is interesting. The Ducks, playing some of their best baseball, making it to the super regionals again, and then you got Oregon State. Oh my gosh, I was watching some of their games over the weekend, and I'm just in awe. Like, I cannot not watch Travis Bazzana.
Yeah.
Like, he's special.
Yeah,
he's special. I don't know where he ranks, because I think there's been recency bias makes it easy to say that, oh, he's the best Beaver that we've seen, but there's been some really good Oregon State Beavers. Obviously, Adley Rutschman, one of them. As a Red Sox fan, and speaking of the Yankees, like, don't sleep on Jacoby Ellsbury either. He was pretty good at Oregon State. But man, it just blows my mind what Oregon State continues to do year in, year out. Like, I know this sounds weird, but I really hope, Dwight, that, and I'm saying this as a Duck, right?
Right.
Everyone knows I'm a Duck. I'll be a homer for him. But I will say this. I really do hope that this realignment doesn't hurt that school so much that baseball takes a hit, because that baseball
agree.
program is special.
Yeah, it's really solid. One of the best in the country. I think it's important, too, for people to celebrate in Oregon. The two best college baseball teams in the West are from this state.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. Everybody else is already gone from any kind of NCAA consideration. They're all eliminated. But the two left standing are the Ducks and the Beavers. That's pretty cool, if you ask me.
Yeah, absolutely. What is it about baseball? I know you're a baseball guy, always have been, but what is it about baseball that makes it so unique? Because I say that I hope that realignment doesn't hurt that baseball program, and then as soon as I say it, I'm like, you know what? I don't think it will, because you look at teams that were so good for so long, like Cal State Fullerton, some little tiny college down there in SoCal, with George Horton is going out there winning College World Series, and nobody else could put Cal State Fullerton on a map or name their mascot, the Titans, by the way, if it weren't for that baseball team. But they were able to get real good players and put together a real good program. Baseball's kind of unique.
Yeah, but think of this, too. All they have to do is drive a mile in any direction at Fullerton, and there's tons of possible college baseball players.
Very true.
You try to find them up here. I mean, no offense. These high school coaches in Oregon do a great job. Oregon and Washington, high school baseball is played at a very high level, and they're fortunate at Oregon and Oregon State to be able to use some local guys. But still, the backbone of your recruiting has to be California, Utah, Arizona, Texas. You know, and the Beavers have been getting players. They were getting them from Colorado, Minnesota. They're getting players from all over because it's a national level program.
Hey, but again, Jacoby Ellsbury, pride of Madras.
Yeah,
okay?
for sure.
Bradley Rutschman, the pride of Sherwood.
Yeah.
So you don't, like you said, don't sleep on the Oregon
No,
kids.
I'm not, because heck, the first national title they won, the pitching staff was all local guys. It was great.
Yeah, and I faced a bunch of them at that time too. Yeah, what Gunderson was on that
Dallas
roster.
Buck.
Yeah, going through, you had Kuntz was on that roster. Nate Fogel was on that roster. He played at my school. He was a senior when I was a freshman. Both ran. He was a stud pitcher in baseball. He ended up going to Oregon. They didn't have baseball at the time, but he's a stud football player. And the only reason I brought him up because he was one of the craziest pitchers I ever faced. He didn't even go play baseball in college. He went and played football. Right? There's talent in this state. Let me tell you what. Grady Saunders, by the way, there's a name to watch out for. Sophomore at Thurston. Back-to-back OSAA 5A state champions, and he's going to Oregon State.
Is he?
Already committed.
He's committed as a sophomore?
He's a sophomore. He's good.
Wow.
He's good. Now, I want to tell you this one. This is rare. So last year, he is at bat, 0-0 game, bottom of the seventh. Keep in mind, they only play 7 innings in high school. He hits a walk-off inside the park home run to win the state title last year.
Wow.
This year, he's on the mound. He pitches like 6 1/3. They sub him out. He goes to third base, 2 down, pop up on the infield. He catches the final out to win a state championship. So in consecutive years, the final hit to win one, the final out to win one. That's pretty incredible.
Is he a big kid? What does he do? Is he a power hitter, a speed guy? What is he?
He's a good mix of everything. He was playing third base there at the end of that game. So he's got real good, strong arm. He was on the mound for most of it. But he feels like a 5-tool player, really, a guy who can play a lot of things. He's
probably
got some power.
A position player rather than a pitcher in college.
Without a doubt. He looked good on the mound, but again, understand the level. I'd put him at position player because he has pretty good quickness. I mean, to hit a walk-off inside the park home run, you got to be cruising, right?
Yeah.
So, no, he's another good talent to watch for sure. So, all I'm saying is I just love this time of year. Like, I love when I can turn on – I think you and Chad have talked about this. I love when I can turn on the TV – and I'm guaranteed I'm either finding college baseball or college softball. And college softball's phenomenal, by the way.
Oh, Chad is addicted. Don't talk Oklahoma Sooner softball with him. He'll wear you out with that.
Oh, he's just a front runner, okay?
Well, yeah, he likes the fact they've won about 4 or 5 in a row, yeah.
So, I just love this time of year, man. It is pretty incredible. And it does feel, though, Dwight, like it has been years since we've got to watch an NBA basketball game, because I don't think anyone expected to have these 2 series end so quickly and then have a week between the conference finals and the
Too
NBA
long.
finals. Yeah, way too long. There's
Yeah.
got to be some leeway in there to say, oh, we should probably start this early if we can, because
Yeah.
kills all your forward momentum. But you know what? They're right back in on the court today. In about 2.5 hours time, you will have tip-off Dallas Mavericks, Boston Celtics. A lot of storylines here, especially if Kristaps Porzingis is ready to go. I mean, he used to play with Luka in Dallas. Kyrie used to be in Boston. Now here they are wearing different uniforms. I think everybody that at least I talked to all year long really expected Boston to be here. I can't think of anybody who expected Dallas.
Right. I agree.
So how do you think this thing's going to shape out, though? Because I think the better team on paper is the Boston Celtics. But sometimes it's about being hot at the right time, and Dallas has looked incredible. But a quick way to put the brakes on that is to give them a week-long break in between games.
You got to wonder what that week did to both teams. And I would think it would affect Dallas a little more because those two players were so hot. Chad gave their field goal percentages from mid-range yesterday. They're ridiculous. Both of them, Kyrie and Luka, are like over 60% from mid-range in the playoffs so far. That can't hold up over a period of time. And the worst thing you can do for players shooting the ball like that is to give them a week off.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Boston relies not just on two guys, but they're a pretty good 5, 6, 7-man team. They spread the ball around. They spread the scoring around. They have the two talented all-stars, but still, they have a lot of good players.
Yeah, and depending on how well Drew Holiday plays in this one, Joe Cronin might deserve a ring when it's all said and done.
He handed them a key player, didn't he?
Handed them a major key player.
Yeah.
A guy like Malcolm Brogdon a lot in that sixth-man role, but I'd rather have Drew Holiday, right?
Yeah,
Like that's why I got irritated, and I'm not trying to disrespect the guy, but that's why I got irritated when Marcus Smart became the first guard since Gary Payton to win Defensive Player of the Year. And I'm like, he's a good defender. But you ask any player in the league who the best on-ball defender is for years, and without hesitation, you'd ask Dame, you'd ask CJ, you'd ask any guy, oh, it's Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
Drew Holiday. So for Drew Holiday to not be the first guard since GP to win Defense Player of the Year, give it to Marcus Smart. Like, come on.
And Holiday's a much better offensive player, too.
Oh, yeah.
Much better all-around player than Marcus Smart.
Yeah. Oh, I would agree. And I'm not even trying to dog Marcus. He's pretty good.
Yeah.
He's not a great offensive player, but defensively, he knows what to do.
Yeah.
But I've always liked Drew Holiday. I mean, you saw the firsthand what Drew Holiday did to Dame and CJ when playing with the Pelicans, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, lock him up. He's a darn good player. So they're going to rely on him tonight. See if they can get the job done. Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Dwight and I will talk about that plenty on the show today. But when we return, we got to talk WNBA because they're taking over the mantle right now. It used to be the NBA that couldn't go a day or two without any drama. But now that they had a week off, the WNBA said, no, we can do this too. We can't go drama free. There's a lot of it.
In this era of social media, it's all about what's going on off the court. That's what seems to carry these leagues along.
Oh,
especially the NBA.
Yes.
They've been living off that. All summer long they live off
That's
it.
because everybody wants the NFL 24/7, 365 news cycle, right?
Yeah.
But they just go crazy way about doing it. What are we talking about? We'll let you know when we come back right here on your home of the Blazers and your Hillsboro Hops. Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into the Rip City Drive. Chris Burkhardt here with you, joined by the Godfather, Dwight Jaynes. And Dwight, before we left, we were talking about drama in professional sports, and the NBA, it loves to have it, especially with that guy down in Golden State, Draymond Green. Like he just breeds drama, right? The storylines.
Yeah.
But right now, man, it's the WNBA that's going at it pretty hard right now with Caitlin Clark and the rookies, and the egregious assault that's happening on her in game. I say that jokingly, of course, because she takes a hard foul, and then you have casuals who want players to go to jail because they fouled her pretty hard.
Yeah.
But now you have even more interesting is that you have the Chicago Sky, who are front and center in all this, because it's Kennedy Carter was the player who fouled her. And then, of course, you have Angel Reese, who is a very good basketball player in her own right, is also a rookie, good rivalry with Caitlin Clark through their time in college. But the Sky are showing up to a hotel the other day, and then you start seeing tweets from them about how they were being harassed outside their hotel. And, this has got to stop. This is crazy. Now video has surfaced. It's not nearly as harassing as what they said it was. It was very TMZ paparazzi-ish. It was one-person camera. Miss Carter, have you approached or apologized to Caitlin Clark? And it's interesting, Dwight, and the reason I want to bring this up is because I've seen the narrative on social already. Like, this is gross. This has to stop. People defending them, and like, you would never see this happening to an NBA player. And then I laughed when I saw that, because I've seen it happen to NBA players. I'm sure you have too.
10 times what we saw in that video. Much worse.
Yes. There was no harassment. Now, security stepped in, tried to get him to go away. I've seen that happen many times. But I have seen, we showed up at our hotel, and it was middle of the day in the video. I have seen throngs of people outside a hotel in random NBA city at 2:00 in the morning when a team bus arrives.
Yeah.
And
a team arrives late on a charter flight, gets there after midnight, and that lobby is packed with people who want something from the players.
Right. Oh,
Picture, autograph, whatever. But they're there, and they harass the players some.
Yeah, and they do. Absolutely. And it's interesting because I watched this video, and granted, what this person was trying to do was get, a quote or something so they could go viral with it. I don't know this person. Definitely this person wasn't a member of the traditional media, because traditional media isn't in these things. I've never seen, you or I or Ben Golliver, who's sitting there at the hotel going, I can't wait for LeBron to show up so I can ask him that gotcha question, right?
Yeah.
But that's what this was. But at the same time, where your levels of harassment are, because I have seen and heard, sometimes you hear vile things. Sometimes you just hear nonstop. Like, I've seen players get off a bus when they are tired. All they want to do is get their hotel room, and it's some grown adult literally in their face, make up a player name. But Dwight, sign this for me. Dwight, I love you, Dwight. And it's like that. It's annoying too. And this was very very minor. But I find it interesting because they're claiming it was harassment. The video says that it may be a little bit different, but at the same time, it was just a few days ago that Angel Reese is like, it's more than just Caitlin Clark who built who has brought eyeballs. I have too, and you need to talk about us and everyone else. And you know what? When you become a star, you get that extra coverage, good and bad, right? Because Timothy Hanks, in the middle of nowhere, he can probably go to the store without paparazzi, but Tom Hanks, that's what he signed up for, right? If he goes out, the paparazzi's on him too. So when you want a certain level of celebrity, it's going to happen, right? So
no, it's just a sign that maybe their league is getting a little bigger.
Absolutely.
It is growing a little bit, and you got to learn to deal with it. Like NBA players, we see it happening, like we said, over and over in the NBA. They just ignore it. They're so accustomed to it. And I think the W players will get accustomed to it too, but that's really what's going to happen as they gain in stature.
Yeah, and it is interesting because, like, within the tweets, the players were like, they were showing up at our hotel. And perhaps maybe when you weren't getting as much publicity as you are, people weren't seeking out what hotel your team was staying at, right? But I kid you not, and I am not making this up to the listener out there, but you would be surprised. that in any given NBA town, those hardcores or the autograph seekers or they know what hotel teams are staying at.
And it's usually the professional autograph guy,
Which is a
the guy
joke.
who's going to put it on eBay an hour after he gets it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of those now. It's amazing how many there are. And hey, if it's a little kid with his piece of paper or his basketball, these guys will sign it every
All
time.
day long.
But they spot the pros, and they don't go out of their way to do that. They're not anxious to hand some guy $100 for signing his basketball and letting him make $100 off it.
Yeah, and I have found some of those guys to be very harassing in their attempts to get
rude
autographs.
very often.
Oh yeah, I mean I've seen videos too of like wrestlers and stuff because someone tried to throw. I can't even remember what wrestler it was, but tried to throw a wrestler under the bus because I ran into so and so at the airport and all I did was ask for an autograph and they wouldn't sign it and basically shoved me out of the way and kept walking. It was so rude. And then you see the video and like you said, it was literally an autograph professional who had a tag board that had 10 action figures on it for him to sign.
Oh,
like you didn't show up randomly to find an autograph. You're reselling those.
Yes,
and yet
business.
he has every right to say no.
You're trying to do business off this guy's signature.
Yeah, which is just wild. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not advocating for any harassment or anything. And quite frankly, I think the players should be able to get off the bus and just go into their hotel room.
Yeah.
But to act as if the only reason they did this is because this was Kennedy Carter, who's high profile because of what's going on for Caitlin Clark and that the WNBA players don't receive, or excuse me, the NBA players don't receive this same treatment because they're men, or that it's kind of a false narrative there because it happens. You've seen the clips of like an athlete getting into their car after leaving a restaurant for dinner with a TMZ guy in your face. Like, Aaron, what do you think about this? John, what do you think about that? It's like it's the exact same thing. Upcry there because then it's all that's paparazzi's annoying, but that is what it is. So I find this one to just be very interesting. You wanted the spotlight. Now you got it. It might be just a little bit too bright.
Yeah, much ado about nothing in reality.
Yeah. Now, I bring all this up too because I think Colin Cowherd kind of said it best, and it was talking about people who are like, oh, the WNBA is soft because of that foul, and he was talking about how they're not soft. It's us, the fan, because we don't know how to react to it or talk about it. And, like I said, that was an assault on Caitlin Clark. No, it was a hard foul, right? And she has brought so many eyes to this game. You have to give her credit for that. She absolutely has. Now, the WNBA had been growing for years, right? Sabrina Ionescu is a huge part of that. Asia Wilson with the Aces. Kelsey Plum, who was a Husky, has been phenomenal for that league. Obviously, Breanna Stewart, Sue Bird. Like there's been forward momentum for years now in a great way. Caitlin Clark, Fast and Furious hit the NOS button, right? And it took off. But with that, there's so many people who just have a delusional view of the league and how things are going to progress. And don't take my word for it. Don't take Dwight's word for it. Take the words of one of the smartest basketball minds on the planet, Gino Auriemma, who was on with Dan Patrick earlier today, excuse me.
I saw where you said the WNBA, they're targeting Caitlin Clark. What do you mean by how she's being guarded or, enforced?
I think you and I both know the landscape that we live in today, both sports-wise and non-sports-wise, right? We are in a red-blue. And if you're red, you can't agree with blue. And if you're blue, you can't agree with red. Whereas most things are in the middle. If you're a college player and you're a great college player, like Caitlin was, the delusional fan base that follows her disrespected the WNBA players by saying she's going to go in that league and tear it apart. There were actually odds on she's third or fourth in betting odds on being MVP at the WNBA. These people are so disrespectful and so unknowledgeable and so stupid that it gives women's basketball a bad name. Okay, so the kid was set up for failure right from the beginning. So if you're a WNBA player, and believe me, I've coached the best, and I've pissed them off a lot, and they let me know about it. but they were tremendously disrespected. And none of them are going to say it, but human nature is, okay, this kid's coming into the league. And Diana said it best. This kid's in for a rude awakening. And they all jumped over her, but they didn't read the whole thing that she said. But nobody's printing. Diana Taurasi was right. This kid's on the wrong team. She's got the wrong skill set to handle the physicality of that league. And she's a rookie. And if you're a WNBA player, if you're any kind of player, you're going to say, I'm going to make a statement. Targeted by society, targeted by her looks, targeted by her reputation, targeted by the disrespect that they've shown to the WNBA. There's a huge target on this kid's back. I thought Cameron Brink said something really smart. She said, no, they're expecting this rookie class to be perfect. This rookie class isn't even one of the best rookie classes in the last 10 years. But they've been put out to be that because the way social media is today. So what kind of impact is this rookie class having in the WNBA?
And so there you go. There's what Gino Auriemma had to say. And it is very true because there were so many people, who got irritated when Diana Taurasi said that thing. Like, oh, no, she's not because she's good. And Caitlin Clark is really good. And there's been a lot of good WNBA players who come in and struggle. There's been a lot of good NBA players who are number one overall picks like Caitlin Clark who aren't great their first year. I mean, I said this to you earlier before the show, but like if you just go back the last 24 years to the year 2000 and think how many rookies came in and were just phenomenal day one, didn't get pushed around, put the league on notice.
Yeah.
I can think of two. LeBron James, because he didn't mess around right out the gate, 20 points per game, highlight reel, right? And then Victor Wembanyama. And Victor still has holes in his game and is still learning, but he's such a unicorn. Not a lot of people know how to guard a guy who's, 7 foot tall and plays like a 6 foot guard, right? And he had great games and didn't really get beat up and pushed around. But everybody else kind of struggles out of the gate. Look at Portland, right?
Yeah.
Scoot Henderson, look at the year he had. Got targeted sometimes because they knew that you haven't played this kind of basketball yet.
Yeah, it's natural. It really is. And a lot of the people who are talking about what she would do in the WNBA had never seen a WNBA game. I guarantee it. They had no idea what she was going to be running into. And I mean, I'm telling you, the players in that league are really good. The gap between women's college basketball and women's professional basketball is much wider than the gap between men's college basketball and the NBA. Mm-hmm. It's much different. And it's because they're just at a given time, not as many great players in college as they are with the men's game. In the women's game, there still aren't that many to make the whole level of play rise. In men's play, you go from college to the NBA. It's a jump, but not as big as it is in the WNBA, where they have all those veteran players who've been playing against each other now for several years, who have made themselves steel sharpen steel. They've made themselves better by playing against that select small group of people who are really good.
Right.
And they've made up the national teams. They've done all the things to be better. And Caitlin Clark hasn't been exposed to that. And she's had a lot of games where she wasn't playing against quality players. That's a fact. And people have to understand that. It's going to take her a while. And Gino said it. She's yet to have the physical skills to match up to the physicality of the league, and she doesn't have the quickness to evade it. She can't get away from that quickness. So she's going to struggle until she learns to be a little more clever and crafty with how she plays to escape the kind of pressure she's under.
Yeah, and you're playing ladies at this point who they have run through their trials and tribulations to get where they're going. I mean, Diana Taurasi, again, she's 41 years old, and on Sunday she dropped 31 points on 62% shooting. I mean, she's in her LeBron era right now because he's doing the same thing with the Lakers at the same age. And I mean, any rookie who comes in, like, again, look at Scoot. I mean, you look at LeBron, you're like, okay, well, I was, not born when he entered the league. That's how long he's been playing. He's been playing professionally as long as I am old. you're going to get, your slap to reality moments.
Yeah, and this is compounded by the fact that, number one, they're playing way too many games. They've got an Olympic gap during their season, so they're jamming games into the first half of the season. She's playing games every day or two.
Oh, yeah.
She's a college player. She's not used to that. Scouting is better. Coaching is better, except on her team, it looks like. But all of that is better, and it's a big adjustment for her. I understand, and people have to understand this. It's tough on her. And, folks, honestly, I've watched them. Her team is terrible. It is flat out terrible. They're so out of the range of the talented teams. They're just going to get clobbered every time they meet the good teams.
Yeah.
It's going to be bad.
Yeah, they're not good right now. They're bad for a reason. And I want to go back to Gino for a moment, because the more I think about what he says, I just think about how true it was. How Caitlin, to her credit, has been fairly quiet, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's just tried to get into this thing, learn the game. But the delusional fan, as Gino stated, kind of set her up for failure, because you push her so hard and try to dilute the WNBA game in the process that every single person who has put the blood, sweat, and tears in to make that league is going to take it personal. And the reason I want to bring this up with you is because, again, I go back to Wemby, and Wemby had a good year, and everyone was excited for him. And there was a lot of people even in the league who were like, yeah, I can't wait to see what he does. But there was no narrative of Wemby is so good that day one, he's going to put the league on notice. He's going to break records. He's going to be in the MVP conversation. Nobody's going to know what to do with him. Watch out, NBA. Because if that would have been the narrative on Wemby, you're going to tell me that guys like DeAndre Ayton or Yusuf Nurkic or Draymond Green, these are going to let him just come in, and that's right, he's really good. They're going to put him on the court too and do the exact same thing and make him work.
Yeah. I kind of equate it to what LeBron has done with Bronny by saying, well, he's better than half the guys playing right now in the league. Well, I'll tell you, that half of guys is going to be after him as soon as he sets foot in the league.
Without a doubt.
All that does is put extra pressure on the player. He doesn't deserve those kinds of expectations because he's not that good. And frankly, she didn't deserve those high expectations. It wasn't fair to her.
No. And so, yeah, it's an interesting point that Gino made, because the way the narrative is put around someone, whether they put it out there or not, will change how people approach them. And so the more you think about it, it's like, I totally get why, Diana Taurasi said what she said. Because again, 41 years old, 20 years in this league, helped basically a major chunk of its existence, built it into something. And now people are going to act like this 21, 22-year-old coming in is the best thing that anybody's ever seen.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it personal.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And they have, and I don't blame them for taking it personally at all.
No.
And she's good for the league. They all know that. But they're not going to lay down, roll over for her.
Yeah.
They're not. They're not going to let her walk all over them. No, they're going to prove a point.
And they absolutely shouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, these women are the best of the best for a reason. They got there, right? And so, yeah.
The league would have been better off, Chris, if they'd have figured out a way to get her on one of the good teams.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you do that, but there is probably a way to manipulate.
You freeze the envelope and bend the corner.
Yeah, that could happen.
That's how you do it. But you're right. I mean, you put her on a bad team, and it's going to compound everything. It's, again, sometimes the Spurs struggled to use Wemby because they're not a very good team,
right?
And the Fever are worse than they were. So that's our take there on Caitlin Clark, though. WNBA, they're doing good, keeping themselves in the headlines. And you know who else is in the headlines for a random reason? The Los Angeles Clippers.
Yes, they are.
Thanks to Hulu, right? We're going to talk about a new TV series, Clipped, coming up on the Rip City Drive. Welcome back into the Rip City Drive. Chris Burkhardt here today, filling in for the boss man, Chad Doing. Joined, as always, by the Godfather, Dwight, Jaynes, super producer Michael Shacker on the other side of the glass. And we got to get to some great NBA drama series. It's not a documentary, but it definitely feels like it. But Clipped, a new show on Hulu about Donald Sterling, and it's based off of the ESPN 30 for 30 podcast, The Sterling Affairs. But this is about the Clippers and what went on there, and it's got an all-star cast. Blazer fanatic Kelly O'Coin is on there. Some of you know him from Billions, but he going to be with the Godfather tomorrow, I hear. Is that correct?
We're going to have Kelly on tomorrow to talk about Clipped and his role. He's got a very juicy role in this. And a lot of Blazer fans may not have recognized him because he's got a little hairpiece going on.
He's not rocking the bald look.
He's as bald as I am, but he does this once in a while. And I think it's almost an advantage to be bald in Hollywood because he really can change his look a lot by adding hair. And it makes him look, Shacker, I think you made the remark to me, it looked like it made him a lot younger, right?
A couple decades younger.
That's a lot.
That's
I
funny.
would take 20 years younger. That would work for me.
That's
he looks
funny.
skinnier with hair, and you're claiming he's the same weight.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll see.
I
see.
think
Well,
he is the
we can
same
we can ask him tomorrow, right? So
Yeah.
But I have not had a chance to watch it because, unfortunately, it's not a Disney show. It doesn't contain Anna or Elsa or Moana, so I'm not allowed to watch it in my house because my 1.5-year-old
Disney owns
runs.
FX. It's a Disney show.
No, it's not. It's not. I get what you're saying, Shacker. You're trying to be all correct and technically, but you get what I'm saying. It's not. It doesn't have the little Disney logo. It's not Pixar. It's not animated, so I'm not allowed to watch it because my 1.5-year-old runs the show. Now, you two have seen this, so what are your takeaways here from the intro to Clipped?
I'll go first, Mike. I like it so far because it really gives some life to that whole story that we had only heard on a podcast that Ramona Shelbourne did in L.A. And I'll tell you what, this Donald Sterling guy, I don't even know how to categorize him. I can't tell if he's so senile he doesn't know what he's doing or he's just crazy, but he's a bad guy. Treats his wife. I mean, he's having basically an open affair with his administrative assistant with the team, running his team in just an awful manner. Trying to take fans on tours through the locker room after games when the players are in all sorts of levels of undress, coming out of the shower, things like that. Just really crazy stuff. Not understanding how the team works. Undoing things his general manager wants to do, just not understanding his role at all. But it's shaping up to be pretty good. They've only dropped the first 2 episodes out of the 6, so we'll have to wait for numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6. But Mike, what did you think after watching?
Well, it's neat to think about how this is now history, but for me, it feels like it just happened yesterday. It's 10 years ago
Yeah.
when the story broke with the tapes, and
Yeah.
then he had to sell the team because everyone was outraged. I love seeing it because, honestly, when this happened, I was not paying attention to the coverage. I never heard the tapes. I don't even know exactly what he said. I actually did feel bad for Sterling having to sell his team, not having full knowledge on like who he was and what he was doing. But for the show, I love these type of shows where stuff that has happened in my lifespan and then seeing actors acting it out. And FX did this before with the OJ. I forget who put that together. Was it like American True Crime, whatever that show was? But I love what they do when you see actors acting out something that just happened not too long ago. I mean, you got an actor playing Blake Griffin, another actor playing Chris Paul.
Yeah.
I mean, these are people that are still with us.
Right?
That
It's kind of weird,
But,
right?
but
still young.
Don't you think the dynamic between Chris Paul and the coaching staff and Blake Griffin and the owner, that was pretty interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it also feels like they're acting out stuff I already know. So I'm wondering, like, are they just using the rumors that are out there, and then they created a show around that, or are they going to offer some stuff that we don't know in the next few episodes?
Well, that remains to be seen. But I thought that was interesting that Blake Griffin turned out to be such a pet of the owner. And it was partially, they said, they intimated anyway, that the owner thought he was, what do you think, Hispanic? Isn't that what he thought?
Yeah.
He thought he was Hispanic.
So the question then is, Dwight, I don't know how much insight you have, but you watch this, and then how much of this is a good portrayal of what happened, and how much of it is embellishment for story? I mean, you look at like the Young Rock series, right? Like,
Yeah.
The Rock made a little bit of that was made up to make the Rock look good. So, I mean, what's your take here? Does it fly pretty close to the line of what it should be?
Well, I never covered the Clippers, but I had some knowledge. I've met and talked to Don Sterling, and he did seem like a bumbler when I spoke with him. And from all I've heard from people who are around the Clippers, it seems so far like a pretty fair display. I felt sorry for the real Andy Rosser, the guy that Kelly Acoyne is playing, the general manager of the team, because he comes off in the TV show like a real suck up, and it was like he's the one that told Doc Rivers, Doc, he prefers to be called Mr. Sterling. So Doc immediately continues to call him Don.
That's a total suck up move, too.
But he did come off that way. Agree, Mike?
Yeah, but God, I miss Young Rock. They teased another season. There was supposed to be another season. How's that show gone from the world?
I don't know. Is there a team out there that you think is ready made for a mini series like this to tell some random story? Like,
Any team LeBron is on would be a candidate, I think, because there's always got to be a backstory. There's got to be teammates talking about some resentment there, like in Miami when he was trying to put all his guys on the team playing, and their kids and their wives and everything else, and what a mess that was, and how Pat Riley had to finally take charge of the situation.
How about a show about the moving of the Sonics to Oklahoma?
oh, that'd be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I probably would. I think Jailblazers would be a good one
Jailblazers.
too. Yeah.
Do you ever see the show Playmakers back in the day?
Yeah, I watched part of it.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah.
It lasted 1 year before the NFL told ESPN, no.
Yeah, they squashed it.
No, you're be a little too accurate with how the leagues ran. Don't like it. You guys, look it up. It's a great show. All right, break time here on the big show. We still got plenty to talk to. And we get back, we're going to talk about some Laker basketball before the next hour is done, because some big news coming out of L.A. We'll see how that impacts LeBron and the Lakers in the race out west. Chris Burkhardt here with the Godfather Dwight Jaynes on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. It is 4 o'clock here in the beautiful Rose City. The sun is out. We're having fun and we're talking sports here on Rip City Radio. And the news of the day starts in Los Angeles, where reports are that the Lakers are preparing a massive offer to UConn head coach Dan Hurley to become their next head coach. This comes on the heels of rumors of J.J. Redick being the next head coach for the Lakers. Perhaps the influence of LeBron James not as strong as we all thought. So this is definitely a situation to monitor as we get more details. Also in the NBA, we are about an hour and a half away from tip-off of Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks in Boston to take on Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics. Should be a great series. I am starved for basketball after going a week without. Rip City Drive, Hour 2, Chris Burkhardt and Dwight Jaynes starts now. Welcome back into the Rip City Drive. Chris Burkhardt here with you, filling in for Chad doing today. Dwight Jaynes over there to my left, and still plenty of sports talk to talk about. But isn't it a little bit harder to sit in this studio and talk sports when after, nonsensical atmospheric rivers, which is just a made-up term that I've never heard before in my life, but nonsensical rain and bad weather. It is beautiful outside, and we're cooped up in this studio.
Yeah, it's brutal. There's no other way to put it. After suffering through all the bad weather, we finally get good weather. We spend half our day inside here.
On a day like this, Shacker, you should grab your equipment that you always have, and we should just be able to grab some lawn chairs, put on a headset, and just do the entire show from the roof.
Yeah.
The beach?
For the beach. That works too. That works too. This is the time of year we need to start doing some more remotes. Get us outside and in the sun.
Nice restaurant or pub outdoor dining places would be very nice.
Absolutely. I'm down for that. 'Cause it is beautiful. So I hope you are all out there enjoying it. Be a beautiful day to be on the golf course too, and kind of wish I was golfing and got to get that game going, but I just like when the weather's nice, man. It's going to be a nice, fun summer. Now, before we get back into all the hard-hitting sports stuff, I want to throw this one over to you, let you ask the question, because you were asking me pre-show about having a George Gervin poster and the Iceman. What brought that up into your mind?
San Antonio Express News, the newspaper down in San Antonio, did a story with Gervin, talking to him, and he mentioned that people stop him on the streets all the time, tell him how much they love that Iceman poster, which his nickname was the Iceman. And they did a poster. It was probably a Nike poster, I'm guessing, of him sitting in a chair that was kind of a block of ice surrounded by ice. And it was perfect for him. And I'm sure he's known for that poster and that great barbershop commercial with all the guys sitting around the barbershop talking about his finger roll. And he says to end it, the finger roll, that was my patented. And it was.
That's good. I like George Gervin, the Iceman. And I told you, I know a bunch of Blazer fans were trying to, thrown DeAndre Ayton as Iceman after he got stuck at home and couldn't make it to the game. Like, that should be his nickname. Like, no. There's only one Iceman, and there will ever only be one Iceman. Yeah. Don't mess that up.
Oh, yeah. He was amazing, too.
Yeah. He was.
I really enjoy the idea that I still got to see him play when I started covering the league in the old Hemisphere Arena in San Antonio,
wow,
which was a crazy place anyway. And it was their ABA arena. And to see him in that venue was fun.
That's kind of fun. That's nice. I never got to see George Gervin. I'm a young man here. Now, I didn't have the George Gervin poster, and I didn't have this poster in my room. And it's I look it up right now, and it's an expensive poster, like $150. But you know what poster was on the wall of almost every single teacher going through elementary school?
No.
The Michael Jordan wingspan one. Like Michael
Oh, yeah.
Jordan with his
Holding the
hands out,
basketballs
holding the
out.
palm in the basketball in each hand, says wings across the top. I feel like that was in like every teacher's classroom.
Have you ever seen the Jordan one that looked like they took frames of a movie? It was like a movie strip of his dunk at the dunk contest in Indiana.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it shows various stages of the dunk. I only asked that because I'm in the background standing there watching it, but I was in that one. I also fondly remember the Dale Murphy poster with the neon bat he was holding, and it said Power Alley.
Okay.
And he was standing in an alley with his neon bat. And then he did another one with Dwight Gooden where they were playing stickball. That was another really good one.
I didn't have those. I had a Ken Griffey Jr. one, just perfect. Bat down, touching the ground. He just hit a home run, and it's beautiful. I had a Manny Ramirez one on the back of my door. I don't know. My kids aren't getting into this phase. Maybe it's not a thing anymore, but we need to bring posters back, Dwight. They're phenomenal.
I agree totally. Kids are really missing out on posters.
I grew up in a different era. The classroom, every classroom had the poster of Muggsy and Minute standing side by side.
I remember that one too. That was
I
cool.
remember that. I remember that poster. Again, I didn't have it, but I remember it.
What do you think about taking a call? Somebody wants to talk. I don't know why. Somebody wants to talk about Rasheed Wallace.
Rasheed Wallace, the preacher. Hey, go ahead and pod the preacher up for us, Shacker. Hey, preacher, you're on. You want to talk about Sheed? What you got?
No, I apologize. I appreciate you guys taking the phone call, and that's why your radio station's one of the best. Thank God Godfather's here. And without a doubt, thanks for bringing on Rasheed Wallace. But let me say this. The Jordan poster, I'm sorry, I'm looking for Dwight. It's almost like a where's a Waldo situation. You should actually draw up who can get closest to where he is.
Do you have that poster?
I have two of them.
Oh, really?
I've given them out to anybody who loves basketball. If you have that poster, I hate to say it, it is the religion of sports in regards to basketball.
Oh yeah.
I used to have it, and my son has it now because he circled me in the poster. But I don't have one anymore. I tried to buy one online. I couldn't find one.
Well, Miss Godfather, I'm looking for you. I just don't know where you are. And I know you've been on there, but I mean, it's like, really, where's Waldo in this?
I'm standing up near an exit on floor level.
Okay.
On floor level.
Thank you.
I'm just getting ready to go into the press room.
Well, speaking of that, yeah, I heard you dealing with Mr. Sterling, and I was like, oh, yeah, he's hanging out with Mr. Chamberlain. Maybe
Yes.
he just wanted some, people. So when you showed up and was totally nice in regards to meeting him, that was impressive. But I was like, oh, yeah, maybe this guy doesn't have many friends. So you showed up
Yeah.
and you totally played your role. Okay, Rasheed Wallace, he is a good teammate. I know he threw the teammate at Sabonis, but like LaMarcus Aldridge, who threw the towel at the bench at the end and then walked out as a free agent with no return. Okay, I get it. When Rasheed Wallace left, like Mario Elie or Clyde Drexler, I rooted for their future. And Rasheed Wallace got there on a hard-earned ticket with Detroit and Chauncey Billups and Rick Hamilton and Ben Wallace, and the list goes on with Keyshawn Prince. And, I mean, I really rooted in my era. I was looking at Dunleavy that he could bring it. And I went to Morton's, and I didn't like Wallace. I mean, the guy, I worked for Morton's Steakhouse. The guy would park across the Keller Auditorium in his yellow Hummer, and I would just open the door. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't like him, but I respected what he did. And I'll end it at that.
All right.
Love the show.
Well,
Thank you. Preacher.
yes. Thanks, preacher. I'm always down for Sheed talk. I like him. He's one of my favorite Blazers of all time. I don't know why. I just really did like him. I followed him over to Detroit. I was in the Rose Garden when he was front row at Monday Night Raw the night he was traded.
Yeah.
I love that story. But then Dwight stuck the knife in my heart a couple weeks ago talking about him. He's like, if Rasheed Wallace is your favorite player, he wouldn't be your favorite player if you covered him.
That's for sure.
So
That is for sure.
that
Yes.
one stung. But I did like Sheed. The only irritating part with me about Rasheed is the fact that I have heard, I believe this from watching him, and I've heard so many people like yourself who covered him who said that if he were motivated and wanted to be, he could have been one of the best of all time because he had the talent.
He had great tools.
He just
Yeah.
didn't have the drive.
The other thing was he would be the highest paid player on the team, but try to get him to take that last shot of a game.
Yeah.
He just would not do that. It was a hot potato. He'd pass it to somebody with 1 second on the shot clock
So weird.
rather than take it. Then he got to Detroit, and he made a last-second shot for them in the playoffs. He made a big shot. But I think that was because he was in an environment with not a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah.
In Detroit, he wasn't the guy. In Portland, he was the guy. And
Yeah.
I think that put a lot of pressure on him that he didn't really want.
Yeah, I don't know. That's weird to me. That talented, just go be the guy. That turnaround jumper of his was money. He was a little bit ahead of his time as a big man who could space the floor, hit those threes.
Yeah.
Athletic as all could be for his size too. I mean, he could get up above the rim with ease when he wanted to.
Yeah.
So
His
just-
emotions were a problem, too.
Yeah,
He just wasn't available as often because of the technical fouls and
yeah.
getting kicked out of games and all that stuff.
Well, I still like him.
No, you can like him. I think your whole generation likes him. There is that generation that has the posters on the wall and really likes him. I know Ian Carmel has always had that poster up on his wall of Rasheed, and yeah, that's good. That's fine. I don't care who anybody roots for. It doesn't bother me. I just give my opinion and move on.
Yeah, see, the back to posters though. How posters are no longer a thing. Like posters need to be a thing because I hate to put the knife in the wound because he's no longer here, but like every young kid growing up in Portland should have had a poster of Damian Lillard waving goodbye to the Oklahoma City bench on their wall. You know, where he's in color, but everything else is black and white. That's a ready-made,
Yeah.
12-year-old basketball fan that is up on their wall.
Why aren't they here anymore? Do you know? I mean, have they been replaced just by people's pictures on their iPhone, or what is it?
I think it's because of social media in the fact that you used to have the posters because that was the highlight. Like that was Jordan's dunk. You could see it but now I can just go on YouTube or Twitter and type in bad shot OKC and I can see it right there. So I don't need that constant reminder on my wall. I don't know why. That's just a rough guess, but
Yeah.
we need to
You need to go into that business. You could do that. You could start a business doing posters like that.
I had an idea a long time ago and I asked my tech buddy and he's like, it's too hard. And now they basically have it with like the photo frames. You've talked about the photo frames.
Yeah.
You can send but I had an idea a long, long time ago to sell SD cards at Fred Meyer instead of a poster, but the SD card was a highlight. And then you could plug it into a frame on your wall that was the size of a poster, but it would just be Barry Bonds' record home run on loop. That'd be sweet.
That would be cool.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
But now they have the technology and it's on your phone. All right, bring posters back.
I'm there. Yeah.
Yeah, don't you miss going to the store and that creak, creak as you're going through the big thing of them?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I want this one. It's
Number 55,
Yeah,
right?
55. You go down. See?
Yeah.
Oh, kids today, they're missing out. All right, we're gonna take a quick break here on the Rip City Drive. When we return, though, Dwight and I are going to talk about the Lakers and their head coaching search. They may have found their next guy, and I don't know if a lot of people expected this one to happen. Chris Burkhardt here with you, joined by the Godfather, Dwight Jaynes, on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Sometimes it's hard to come back from a break when you just kind of want to chill with the music that's playing.
Oh, man, Shacker's good to me. Plays
good
Mystical
one.
about once a week for me. I love it. He's my guy,
It's
Mystical.
such a good beat.
Real good.
Yeah.
He can spin it, too, I'll tell you. Mystical can put a lot of words in a short amount of time.
I've been listening a lot to that new Houdini by Eminem. That's a good one.
I've heard that. Yeah, people tell me that.
That's a good one. So I like that. Yeah, Mystical's good. I get stuck every once in a while. I'll be in the car and Twista will pop on. Oh yeah.
Really?
Creep fast. It's like I played this game and it's like, okay, how many words can I understand? And the next time can I understand more? Like I don't know. It's a gosh, when you get those guys who can just spit and spit fast, it's quite impressive. I enjoy it. So well done there, Shacker. And now it is, though, time to talk a little more NBA basketball. Don and Beaverton's been waiting patiently. We will get to you in a second, Don. I promise before this segment's done. But I want to jump in on the Lakers real quick, Dwight, because it was about a day ago that there was J.J. Redick.
Shams had this story for us. He
Oh,
did.
yeah.
He had the whole thing doped out.
Absolutely. J.J. Redick, he's lined up. He's going to be the next head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. And everyone's like, yeah, this is going to play out great. LeBron got his friend a job. And then we were just waiting for details. And there was no details, but there was more news today. And it was a turn of events that you didn't really see coming, because now reports are coming out that the Lakers are preparing a massive deal for UConn head coach Dan Hurley. And, I mean, that's a get. Dan Hurley is a darn good coach. He's had some success there at UConn. But what I want to ask you before we get into the success rate of college coaches in the NBA is Dan Hurley, like many a guy in the NCAA who has found success, like, John Calipari, right, and Coach Krzyzewski, and
Rick Pitino.
These are guys that kind of rule with an iron fist, right?
Yes.
They are hard-nosed, and they get the best out of their players. The clip that we played earlier with Gino Auriemma, 11-time national champion, he said, he's gone after his players sometimes for doing dumb stuff too, and they don't like it, but they understand at the end of the day, why they do it. How does that type of attitude jive with LeBron?
Yeah. Well, first let me say, we don't even know that Hurley's going to take the job. People think for the money he will, but he's going to be making outstanding coin at UConn. And he's always been the guy saying that money's not everything. His wife is very involved in things in Connecticut. He's very happy there. He's got things going his way. He's going for a three-peat this year, which would be, unbelievable in this day and age. And so I'm not sure he's going to take it. But if he does, I think there's a couple things to point out, Chris. Number one, his style. He's been teaching pro-style offense at UConn for quite a while. They have multiple options. They don't script plays out. They read and react, just like NBA players do. So I don't think he'd have a problem with that. The problem, though, is he teaches a system that's based on unselfish ball movement and player movement, where everybody's got an opportunity to score. Everybody touches the ball. That doesn't seem to mesh very well with LeBron James, who is a guy that wants the ball. He's a hero ball guy. He's been very successful with that. He wants to run pick and rolls, whether he scores or he gives the assist to the one who will score. So how that will work out, I have no idea. And here's the thing about Dan Hurley. He's a sideline psycho, okay? He has been for a long time. People who know him tell me, and I was on the phone for a long time this morning, they tell me even back in high school, when he was coaching high school basketball, he was the same way on the sideline. Screaming at referees, screaming at his players, just kind of a psycho. Can he tone it down enough? Can he do that? Can he tone it down enough to coach in the NBA with sensitive players, referees who are going to see him coming because they know from the college coaches what to expect? But I mentioned on Twitter today, he needs to tone it down a little bit. I got a reply from John Hollinger, an old friend of mine who spent years in the front office at Memphis. And he said, oh, hell yes. LOL. He's going to combust by Christmas otherwise. And I think John's right. I think he might combust by Christmas. You can't do what he did with NBA players. And it's not only that. He needs to hire a veteran, calm assistant who will tell him, Coach, you know, they just traveled all night. We can't practice today. Yeah, but I want to practice. We need to practice. No, we can't practice today. And all these things about, 3 games in 4 nights or whatever, they need a couple days off. You got to rest so-and-so. He's not ready to play. He's got too many minutes. All that stuff that you get away with in college. You don't play that many games. You play not even half as many as they play in the NBA. Is he going to be able to handle that kind of thing with his players? Because he goes off on his players. He goes off on the officials. The officials in college can't stand him. He's public enemy number one because he's all over him. Now, he's also, and he's been very honest about this, admitting it, he's had some mental problems over the years with depression, things like that. And I'll tell you what, this may not be the league to bring those kind of problems in.
No.
It's a long season. Players aren't going to always listen to you. I'm not sure LeBron James is going to listen to him. That's going to be a tussle for a while. He's either going to have to bench LeBron a little while, which I don't think can happen, or LeBron's going to have to bend a little bit, or maybe the coach bends a little bit.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, you got a coach who again, his pedigree is there and he knows what he's doing. And then you match up with LeBron, who, again, he has a way of wanting things done. And
yeah,
I mean,
he wants it his way.
Yeah, I mean, he's a superstar, and people argue that he's the greatest of all time. But I mean, MJ didn't run through coaches like this guy is.
No.
Granted, he ended up running through one and then landing with Phil Jackson, who's one of the greatest of all time. But still, I mean, LeBron has had some really good coaches that for some reason he couldn't just coexist with in the long run.
Yeah, Brian Windhorst is fond of saying LeBron wants to be coached. I think he means LeBron wants coaches, plural, because he's gone through a ton of them and some really good ones. He didn't like Spoelstra. He didn't like Ty Lue. What are you looking for exactly? Really,
Right.
What are you looking for in a coach? And I think this is a coach who's going to be demanding of him. Pretty late in his career for that. And LeBron's got his own, the way he plays now as an older player. And I think Rick Bucher talked about that today, about what to expect from LeBron and the way he plays. And he's still trying to roll stats up. He's got big stats, and he wants to retire with the best stats total aggregate in the history of the game. So, it's a matter of a lot of times taking shots other players on the team could be taking. A lot of these guys on the games LeBron doesn't play better when he's not on the floor.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The very first time he actually has a coach who says, LeBron, I need you to get back on defense, and I need you to get back now.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I mean, you saw the clips. I mean, they weren't from at the end of the year. They were older clips, but I mean, you've seen the clips of Darvin Ham trying to write up a play in a timeout and LeBron ignoring it. That's not going to fly.
That's not going to go with this guy.
No.
And he's a real coach. I don't mean to do anything to run down his coaching ability. He's one of the great coaches going right now, and I don't blame them for going after him. He is a culture guy. He will set them up. And I'll tell you, around the league, I made calls today, around the league, the Laker front office is being praised by a lot of people who don't like the Lakers, but they're saying Rob Pelinka did it right this time. He didn't try to please LeBron. He went out and got the best coach. And this guy would be the best coach the Lakers have had in a long time.
Well, I think you got to make the smart move too here. You can't make the move that just, makes LeBron happy, because LeBron, he's over 40 now, guys.
Yeah, he's a short timer.
He's only got a few more years in this league. I mean, 24, 25 might be his last. You don't know, but you're at that point where every year could be his last one, because he's going to run out of tread on that tire. And so if he leaves in tomorrow or the next year, you still want to be lined up with a guy that you have confidence in to continue to take your team forward. And for me, Hurley would definitely be that guy that I would have confidence in. What's interesting, Dwight, is that the history of coaches jumping from college to the NBA, not a great one.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
Not a great one. And shout out to Trailblazers analytic insider, a friend of ours, Tom Habistro, put together this article over on his website here, but some of these coaches over the last handful of years, John Beilein left from Michigan to go to Cleveland, did not last long there, ended 14-40 before referencing his team as a bunch of thugs in a locker room video, and hasn't been heard from since he was gone. Fred Hoiberg went from Iowa State to Chicago. He was 115 and 155 in 3 seasons in Chicago. Billy Donovan is one that definitely has found some level of success. He hasn't been as good in Chicago as I think he would have liked, but he had a plethora of riches in OKC. Left Florida. He was 243 and 157 in his time with the Thunder. And then you have Brad Stevens, who, if he wanted to still be coaching, I think would still be a darn good coach.
Yeah.
He's just really good at the front office thing, too.
Yeah.
Like, he's just smart. But from there on, it's a long list of coaches who just terrible. Reggie Theus, New Mexico to Sacramento Kings, fired after 24 games.
Yeah.
Like,
how about Tark?
Yeah, Tark is one that people don't think of, but you go down the list. 1992, he left UNLV and the juggernaut he had there to go to San Antonio. He was fired after going 9-11 with the Spurs. He just wasn't his thing, right? I was too young to realize this, but I mean, I don't know how many people remember that PJ Carlesimo went straight from Seton Hall to Portland.
Yeah.
So,
well, let me just say this about that, Chris. If you look at that list and you just went through it, the guys who have done pretty well, and we talk about Brad Stevens and the guy from Florida,
Billy Donovan,
they're quieter. They are. They're quieter people, not emotional, not easy to anger. They're different. The loud, hysterical, intense guys, Tim Floyd, Rick Pitino, John Calipari, those guys are the ones. And PJ was a talker all the time. He was a talker. He never stopped. And I love PJ, but he wore his players out pretty quick. And it's like coaching in the NBA requires patience. I mean, look at the 2 guys in the finals. Look at Mazzulla and look at Jason Kidd. They stand on the sidelines with their arms folded. They don't say much to the officials. You don't see them yelling at their players. They're pretty quiet guys. Now you get them in a huddle or maybe at halftime, they're gonna come down on players, just like Rick Adelman. People say, "Oh God, he was too easy on the players." No, he had his times. You just didn't see it. He never embarrassed a player during a game in a huddle or anything like that by screaming at him. But he took care of things quietly in the background. In the NBA, you can't be that screamer. It just doesn't work in today's game. I don't know that it worked 15 years ago, but you just can't be that way. And Dan Hurley is that way. He's going to have to change or he's not going to make it. It's just not going to work out for him.
Yeah, and you look at, arguably the best coach in the NBA right now, Eric Spoelstra, arguably the greatest coach of this past generation, Greg Popovich. Those are both guys who, at least in talking to players that have played with them, who are hard-nosed guys and hold their players accountable more so than a lot of coaches in the league. But the difference between what you just said and what they do is they don't undress them in the middle of a packed arena with everyone. They do it in private at practice when it's the time and the place, and it has the impact without the negative, really you had to do that while everyone was watching. Can Dan Hurley be that guy, though?
Yeah. See, and that's the thing, Chris, in all sports, and I've covered all of them, nobody wants that coach who shows them up. They don't want to be showed up in public. And that's what some of these guys do. Don't do that with a pro. He's not going to take it. And his teammates aren't going to take it. That's what's amazing. These coaches sometimes don't understand it. Even if you pull that on a sub, that guy probably, if he's been around a while, he's got friends on that team. And he's got quality players who like this guy. They're not going to put up with it either. They're not going to like it. They're going to have the same resentment about that the guy who got called out has.
Right.
So you have to be so careful today. It's a minefield. I mean, you have to tiptoe through this. It's not easy.
Yeah, just imagine, like, Bob Knight doing some of the things he did, but doing that in the NBA.
Oh,
he wouldn't have lasted.
No, he'd last a week. I mean, and it would drive him crazy because he wouldn't get the response. You do that in college. Yes, coach, I'll do it. I'll do better, coach. Yes, ma'am. yes, sir, whatever. But you try that in the pros. They're just gonna stop listening and stop looking at you.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how that even changes in the long run in college with the impact of NIL and
You're
players
right.
making money.
Players
now
being
again.
able to leave after a year.
Right, and that's something you and I will talk about here in a minute. But that will have an impact on all this as well. But it's not just the game of basketball. I mean, you can go down a long laundry list of coaches who made the jump from college basketball to the NFL and weren't good. I mean, Chip Kelly wasn't good in the NFL, but
Yeah.
he was very good at Oregon and honestly has been pretty good at UCLA, everything considered. Now he's the offensive coordinator at Ohio State because, UCLA's kind of run like a dumpster fire over there. But Nick Saban, who's arguably the greatest college football coach of all time, goes from LSU and winning national championships to Miami where it just flops.
Yeah.
And then comes back, goes to Alabama and builds the best program the game's ever seen, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot more Sabans and Kellys than there are Pete Carrolls, right? And even Pete Carroll struggled the first time he made the jump to the NFL, and then he came back, and then he goes to Seattle, and
Right.
it was right time, right place, everything worked. But they're just two different games, and you got to have the ability to make those adjustments, and it is tough. But I would vote for Hurley, man, because I think you need that, and I like this idea all the time of just, oh, I was a former player, so I should just get to be a coach. I'm JJ Redick. Like, no. Like,
The other thing I heard, Chris, that was interesting is somebody said LeBron did want JJ. Okay. To not hire JJ, you couldn't turn around and hire James Borrega, the assistant coach out of New Orleans.
Mhm.
If you're gonna diss LeBron, it better be for that A1 top shelf guy. And that's why you go for a guy like Danny Hurley, who is a top shelf guy. Who can argue with hiring him? LeBron can't make that argument. He can't tell you that Borrega or JJ or one of those guys is better coach than this guy who's won back-to-back national titles.
right.
Yeah. So
It's-
you're kind of protected from anything you might hear from your players.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, when Dan Hurley talks, you listen, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and gosh, he's been good with the media. I think he'd be fine in LA. He might get a little frustrated, say some dumb stuff once in a while, which he has a tendency to do.
Yeah,
But it's
absolutely.
going to be a real test for him emotionally, I
Yeah.
think.
It will be. All right, music means we got to take a break. Don and Beaverton, I said we'd get to you, and we didn't. I apologize. Stay right there.
We'll
My
get you.
promise to you is I'll turn your phone on as soon as we get back from break. I do apologize for that.
I'll
but
hold him to it.
He'll hold me to it, Don. So stay right there. We'll get to you as soon as we get back from this quick break here. Chris Burkhardt, Dwight Jaynes. Rip City Drive continues on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Told you I've been listening to Eminem.
Yeah.
It's right here. It's a Wayback Machine. This is
Oh, yeah.
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 little early 2000 Slim Shady on you right now, baby. Yeah. He's getting old, though. Eminem's in his 50s. What is time?
Oh, yeah,
he's
that's
a Hall of
really
Famer.
old. Gosh, that's getting up there,
That is old. I feel like that's very old in the rap game.
I guess.
Sorry, Dwight. Dwight's like, hey, you want to know what old is?
Well, how old is Snoop? Come on, that guy must
How
be.
old is Snoop? Let's look this up real quick. Snoop Dogg. It's 52. He's a year older than him.
Oh, he's lying. He's older
He's
than
lying.
That. He's older than that. Come on.
He's older than that. He says.
Gotta be.
Hey, Wikipedia doesn't lie. Dr. Dre is 59. I feel like Snoop's way closer to. Yeah, I can't trust the internet anymore. Who the
No.
heck knows what's going on? All right, game 1 of the NBA Finals going down in NBA tonight. Derek White's on the TV right now. Dallas Mavericks, Boston Celtics. And before Dwight and I dive in any more on it, we'll head out to Beaverton, where Don has been waiting patiently, and he wants to talk about tonight's game. So, Don, first off, thank you for your patience there. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I think those posters, I got a couple of things going on here. I think the posters were pretty good back in the early 80s and late 70s and early 80s. Farrah Fawcett was pretty good looking. I think that was.
I figured somebody
I
would
think
bring
that
that
was
up.
sold many on that one.
Bo
Everybody
Derek,
looked for
too.
Farrah
Yeah.
Fawcett. And anyways, I think this is going to be better for Dallas to have the rest because I think Luka, there's no excuse now that he's going to be, questionable. I think he's going to be really healthy, and I think Gabbard and White are going to be very crucial in the series, and I think Dallas is going to take the first one, and I'm hoping for a clean sweep.
Wow.
A clean sweep.
There'd be some upset people in Boston.
Oh
if they
my
get
God.
swept.
Okay, so Don brings up a good point, and I don't even say it has to be in a sweep. This is a good question for you, though. Boston has built to win, right? And they have all the right pieces. Everything's looking good. If Dallas, who came out of nowhere, no one expected them to be the team to get out of the West. If they come in here and they beat Boston in the finals, what does Boston do?
Fire Joe Mazzulla.
Like, probably.
That's what I'm thinking. If they get swept.
Oh,
if
for
they-
sure.
If they just lose like in 6 or 7, I don't think he gets fired. But if you get swept, that's a real sign of trouble.
Yeah. But even if you lose this, say you lose this in 6, you lose it in 7. I mean, Al Horford's not getting any younger. All your money's dumped into Brown and Tatum. You got Holiday, but what do you do? Like, do you blow that up? Do you make a rash move? Do you try to nickel and dime it and get a small piece in? Like, that's a tough spot to be in, to be built like that and then to fall short multiple times.
Yeah, I don't think you panic quite yet. You'd run it back at least one more time, I think, because they have a lot of these guys under long-term deals.
Yeah.
You can rearrange the deck chairs a little bit with your bench, trade some people off, try some other guys, see what you need. But you're right. I think the security behind Porzingis is Horford, and he's not getting any younger.
Yeah.
His minutes are going to go down. You might be looking for another big you could use in the post.
Yeah. I think for me, Dwight, I think Porzingis is the key to this series. You and I talked about it a couple months ago that everyone is so hung up on how he was injury prone in New York, and he definitely was, and that they just create that narrative. And I don't think a lot of people realize just how good he was in Washington.
Yeah.
He had a great time with them, and he was really good at the tail end with Dallas too. Like he was on the floor thing. And so when he's healthy right now, he's still, I mean, they called him the unicorn back then. He still has those traits because he's Wemby light, right? Because he's 7 foot tall. He moves great. He plays good defense.
He makes threes and he blocks shots.
Yeah.
That's what you need in today's game.
Yeah. I mean, I think it just took him a while to become what he was supposed to be, but he's a really good player and he's a difference maker. And if he's healthy this entire series, to me, that's the pivot point. With him, I think Boston wins it. If he's hurt and doesn't go, I think they have a hard time to get by Dallas, who's playing so well right now.
Yeah, they might. I just don't know what to think. Dallas has surprised me in every level of the playoffs. I've thought they would get beaten every round, and they didn't. So I was surprised. I thought OKC would knock them off, to tell you the truth. I did.
Yeah, I didn't expect him to get through. I think most people thought Minnesota was the team of destiny, right? And was going to knock them off, and they made light work of Minnesota.
Sure did.
And I definitely think Minnesota used all the ammo in its arsenal to get past
Just to win
Denver.
one game.
Yeah, to get past Denver, right?
Yeah.
And then it took everything to win one. They were toasted. And Dallas has breezed through this. And, even if I know there's a lot of people who don't want to, but Jason Kidd deserves a ton of credit going in there, getting that team on the right page. Front office deserves a massive amount of credit for making the right moves, getting in the right role players. I mean, Portland had Derek Jones Jr. and wasn't using him right, wasn't really building itself to win, was still in flux. Are we winning or are we tanking, right?
Yeah.
We don't know yet.
Yeah.
But you put Derek Jones Jr. in a situation with a team that is trying to win right now, and he's been great for them all season long.
Very valuable to them. Corner threes and defense. And catching a lob every once in a while.
Defensively, Luka praised him. He says he's one of the best on-ball defenders in the game.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but he is good.
Someday we're going to compile a list of players who came through here on the way during the rebuilding process that didn't get held onto.
Painful. It's painful
It
right
is,
now.
Yeah.
And it's like if you could have just, Josh Hart has been phenomenal in New York.
Yeah.
And I loved him when he was here. I liked him as a rookie in LA. He's a player I've always liked. So I was excited to get him. Yeah, my favorite player in the league for the last few years has been Robert Covington, and then Portland didn't use him right either. I'm like, oh, that hurts. Norman Powell has been a sixth man
really
for
good.
the Clippers, been great. So it's like, oh, yeah, cool. Thanks, guys. Oh, what's that? Western Conference Finals, Nickeil Alexander-Walker getting minutes.
Oh, man.
What?
He looks like he's going to be a good young player.
Oh, what's going on, man? Yeah, so you're right. The list, that's going to be the mini series that they're going to make. The ones who got away, a Trailblazer story. Ouch. Pain. All right, I got to take a break here on the Rip City Drive. When we come back, Dwight and I are going to talk about NIL and its impact on coaching, man, because the coaches, they're getting more and more vocal. They are not happy about it.
They're tired of it.
They're tired of it. It's changing the game. Chris Burkhardt here, joined by the Godfather, Dwight Jaynes, and your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. In fact, it's 5 o'clock right here in the Rose City. Chris Burkhardt here with you, joined by Dwight, Jaynes, and we do got sports to get to. Some big stories going on around the NBA today. First off, the Lakers taking all the headlines because reports coming out that the Los Angeles Lakers are prepared to sign UConn head coach Dan Hurley to a massive deal to become their new head coach and maybe get one more championship for LeBron. Things are crazy, though, because it was just a day ago it was rumored to be J.J. Redick. Right now, we still haven't heard any official words yet, but it does look like Dan Hurley will be the guy. Keeping it in the NBA, don't take all the news out of Boston because game one about to go down, tip-off in a half hour. Dallas Mavericks, Boston Celtics, NBA Finals, game one. Who you riding with? Team Luka or Team Tatum? I don't know. I'm just ready for basketball. Hour 3 of the Rip City Drive starts now. Welcome back into the Rip City Drive. Chris Burkhardt here with you, joined by the Godfather Dwight Jaynes and Michael Shacker on the other side of the glass. We're having a good old time here in this freezing studio, looking outside the window going, gosh, that sun looks mighty nice right about now.
Wearing a coat. Same coat I wear when we're in the beer cooler.
I was just going to say, he's wearing the same coat
Yeah.
he wore.
Yeah,
in
we
the
should
cooler.
keep our beer in
It's
these studios.
freezing
They'll
in
stay
here.
cold.
There's this deal where the hotter it gets outside, the more our temperature overreacts in here
Oh, yeah.
with the air conditioning.
This building does not have great temperature control.
Yeah.
Because in the winter, when it's cold, it's hot enough to melt the paint off the wall in here. But then you do a Blazer game in the weekend. I don't think they turn the temp on
Of
in the
course
weekend.
not.
So it's freezing cold on, the weekend when nobody's supposed to be here. But here come the sports guys because sports never sleep. Ay, ay, ay. All I know is it looks awful nice outside. So if you're driving home, hope you're enjoying it. Window down, arm out, enjoying a little bit of that sun. Because, man, summer, it's about to hit here in Portland. And I hope we don't see rain anytime soon because I'm tired of that. All right, Dwight, you and I have been talking about some NIL stuff that's been going on. And it's very interesting how things are changing in the college landscape. You did have Coastal Carolina, their head coach, after they were eliminated from the College World Series. He went off on a rant about NIL and how it's not a level playing field. And, if every single player in Major League Baseball were a free agent every single year, then it would just be, the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Dodgers because they have the most money and this and that. And I want to get your take on it because while, yes, the game is changing, for me, it does feel like there's just a lot of coaches who have sour grape face out there.
Yeah. I think it's a combination of NIL and the transfer portal, but coaches have had it their way for a long, long time. And I think they're very upset that things have changed and they no longer have the ability to control everything because coaches, football coaches particularly, we know are absolute control freaks. They
Yes.
want control over everything.
Yeah.
And they don't have it now. They've lost that.
Yeah, and a lot of them are mad about this, but like when you have Coastal Carolina coming out and saying it's not an even playing field, it's like I don't think it was ever ever
Yeah, not for Coastal
Carolina. It was never
Carolina.
an even playing field, and we're acting as if they haven't been handing out money to players behind closed doors, and we all know that they have. We've had, heck, Reggie Bush just got his Heisman back after years of it taken away for improper payments while he was at USC. So it's been happening. Now it's just legal and more players and teams are doing it. Now you're seeing that discrepancy because the teams that do have a lot of money and a lot of financial backing do have an ability to maybe pay a little bit more, which is where I would like to see it change. I know it's hard to put a cap on it, like this is all you can spend, but I think there's ways to make it different. Like for one, I said this before, but like scholarships, they tend to be they are a year-to-year thing. Like if you sign a scholarship with a team to go there, well, guess what? Next year you got to earn that scholarship again. So maybe scholarships now become contracts in a way. Like, hey, okay, I'm going to offer you a scholarship, but if you want that big NIL money, you got to sign this 3-year
Right.
one. where you can leave early to go to the NFL draft, but you cannot enter the transfer portal.
And it's a two-way guarantee. We guarantee you will have this scholarship for 3 years.
Yeah.
But you have to guarantee you'll stay here and use it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so little things like that could change, or maybe you make some of these things. I think you brought this up when we were show prepping, like backload it in a way like, here's your NIL deal. We'll give you this up front so you have your money, but to get the whole plethora of the deal, you gotta graduate, or you gotta play all 4 years. You gotta play 3. Like
use up your eligibility.
Yeah, incentives to get that money, because you're seeing situations where you definitely are. Where I'm going to a school, they're offering me $1 million. I'm signing the NIL deal. I'm taking a bunch of that money, and then I'm jumping ship to go somewhere else when the next season hits. Like how are they doing it? If I'm a football player, are they giving me that money all during the football season? Are they spacing it out during the year? Like it's interesting.
Well, and it's really tough on the lower level teams. Like you're talking about, say, Mountain West teams. Those guys, well, look at Oregon State, for example. How much money did they give their running back Martinez?
Right.
A lot. Okay. All they were doing is just getting him ready to go play at a better school. And that's unfortunate. They made an investment in him. They thought he was staying. I think he said he was going to stay, but he didn't.
Yeah. And so you just never know. And I think there's incentive for rules to change in the long run, because schools are going to want players to stay there longer, because that's how you build up brand recognition and the fan base. Like if I'm Oregon, like, yeah, getting Dylan Gabriel is cool, but I don't want my last year of Bo Nix and then a year of Dylan Gabriel, and then he leaves, and you don't trust Dante Moore, so you go out and get another quarterback who has 1 year of eligibility, and you get 1 year of him, and then you go out and get another quarterback who has 1 year of eligibility, and you never have that chance as a school to build that player up and take full advantage of his NIL. Like, he is there and he's using you to his full advantage, but are you using him to best you as well, whether it be jersey sales, which you can do now, or just a guy who's going to be in your uniform for X amount of years so that the fans have a guy that they just cling to, right? You go back to the guys back in the day, I cling to as a fan. People loved Joey Harrington. Why? Because you watched him grow and become a Duck legend over years, right? So things like that are things that you would think that schools want in the long run.
Yeah, I think so. I was listening to an interview from an assistant basketball coach somewhere, and he said, we sell these kids on the idea that, you need to find a home. What are you going to do? Say you go play in the pros, or say you don't? Someday you're going to want to come back to your college again. You might want to come back for support. Maybe you need advice. Maybe you need to go to class a little more, pick up a master's or a doctorate or something. Maybe you just want to come back and see your guys. If you stay here 1 year and you're done, you don't have a home. You really don't. Stay here for a while. Become a member of the family. Then, at that time, you have a home. You can come back here anytime. You'll be treated great. And you know yourself, Chris, the way these veteran Duck football players are treated when they return to Autzen, say for the ceremonial coin flip, and they announce a guy who was a 3 or 4 year starter, somebody who was a well-known player, they could be mayor of the city. I mean, they own that place.
No, Joey Harrington can still walk across the Willamette.
Yeah.
Right? He can walk on water in Eugene.
Yeah.
Like
Marcus, too.
Absolutely. Marcus, too. And they put their time there. A friend of yours, a friend of LaMichael James.
Oh, gosh.
If LaMichael James showed up in the middle of Autzen Stadium in September and they put him on the big screen, the place is going nuts.
Yeah.
Nuts. Why? Because he was there for a long time.
Yeah.
Gave it his all, man. He was a Duck. Never wore another uniform. He was a Duck through and through.
And the bond between teammates, too. If you're here a year and go, you don't have that long-term bond with teammates that brings you back for alumni affairs, that creates lifetime friends who you can lean on because you've been through hard times with those teammates, good times and hard times. So you have that friend for life. There's nothing like teammates. I still see my high school baseball teammates, and they're great guys, and I love them for all we went through together.
All right.
And good times are shared even with the coach. And it's just too bad players aren't made to recognize what they have where they are.
Right. And shout out one of my best friends, Justin Bowden. Like, He played. I played football with him, and I played baseball with him. And when we went to college together, we were roommates. Like our friendship was built through being teammates in
Yeah.
sports for many years.
Mhm.
So you're right. You built that camaraderie that's important in the long run. And so how do you build that and become more than just a revolving door? You're at a weird spot right now where just the NIL stuff is so new that you're learning on the fly. There's a lot of holes in it. And
Oh,
so how
yeah.
do you fix that in the long run? But to the coach from Coastal Carolina, like if everyone is a free agent every single year, yeah, part of the reason they don't like that is because part of Tom Brady's mystique, right, is playing a decade in a Patriots uniform, right?
Mhm.
Joe Montana playing a decade in a 49ers uniform, being the guy, Chad's guy, John Elway, right? Being a Bronco for life. That's mystique. But if you're jumping every single year to a new team because everything's a 1-year contract, it becomes a lot harder to be connected to your team, even as a fan, right? So you want that. And I think it's interesting, like how connected do you become to Dylan Gabriel at Oregon in the long run? You know, at least with Bo Nix, he was there for 2 years, which was a little more classic transfer, right? Where you could transfer once and,
Right.
you're splitting things 50-50. But I don't know. I mean, you and I are sitting here having a conversation about it, but I don't know if there is an answer and how you do it. It's a weird situation because in the long run, because there's incentive for schools to want to change it. There's incentive for athletes to want to keep it the same to get as much money as they can. Where's that happy medium?
Yeah, and player empowerment has
Yeah.
got the upper hand right now.
Yeah.
They really do. And I think the colleges need to deal with it, but they need to deal with it in a fair manner so that they're not putting the athletes back in the same situation they were in before. I do think, Chris, put a limit on how many times you could transfer. Originally, it was set up to be a one-time thing. You could do it once. Now you can do it as many times as you want. And that doesn't seem right to me. I don't think it's fair to coaches and schools who make that commitment to you. And then you just leave another year later. There's something about it I don't like.
Yeah, but at the same time, the other argument that people make is there's coaches who can make a commitment to the player the same way. Oh, have your kid come to my school. I'm going to take care of him the whole time he's here, and then they can jump ship at any time too. So,
Well,
yeah,
they at least have to buy their way out of the contract.
right, right.
Players don't.
Yeah, not yet. They can go anywhere they want. So yeah, I don't know. I'm with you. Sometimes I wish there was a cap. I don't know. I want to see guys transfer in every single year just because they can. But at the same time, it's you open the door for it, and that's what it is. And some players are taking advantage of it. I do think at the same time, I mean, I think it's leading to some interesting football. Like I thought last season, you saw some really good football
Mhm.
because there's guys who might have been the third guy at one school who decided, hey, no, I'm going where I can play. And then he made that team a better team because he got on the field for him. So what is it?
Yeah.
It is. It's approaching pro sports. We all know that because they're getting paid.
Yeah, and I don't blame a kid. Say a kid has a great year at Portland State. Well, he transfers to a higher level school. I think that's great for him because he was probably missed in the recruiting process and should have been at that higher school in the first place.
Right.
He deserves the right to play at a higher level. But I also feel bad for the school. I feel bad for them. They gave him the platform to excel and show what he can do, and he leaves. You know, it's like they give you the chance of a lifetime, but you take a hike. There's that side of it too.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know if there's an answer. I just I'm not going to be sour grapes about it. I'm just going to try to enjoy it the best I can. You know, these coaches who get mad about it. I'm still waiting for Dabo Sweeney to leave, right?
Yeah, right.
Remember a decade ago?
Sure.
The minute you start playing players, that's when I'm out. That's when I'm out. And that's my only gripe with all this is these coaches who are making millions or getting compensated well, griping as if this is just changing college football at its core, and it's just not the same. And no, man, college football at the end of the day is still, and sports are just still so different than everything. The connection that fan bases have, the connection you have to your alma mater, like the fact that I can watch this one team go play multiple sports all year long. Like, no, there's a little bit of a change, but it's not like it's overnight. It's not what it was anymore. Get over yourself a little bit. Just go out there. Maybe there's some coaches out there who aren't there for the kid as much as they want to tell themselves they are.
Yeah. In defense of all the coaches I know, I will say one thing. It's hard to get those jobs. so many of these guys toiled for peanuts, coaching probably for free at some high school when they started, just to hook on and get a coaching job,
Right.
then work their way up through video analysis and all the stuff you have to do to finally make it after 20 years to be a head coach and finally get into the real money.
Yep. It's
So
rough. And
I understand. And they're under a lot of pressure, too.
And I'll end with this as we're going over time for a second. But being a coach is hard enough as it is when you got to recruit high school. With the transfer portal, every
Oh,
single
boy.
coach has just doubled their workload
Yeah.
because you can't deny one for the other. You have to hit them both just as hard, and that's a hard, tall task for any coach to do.
Yeah, they'll tell you it's hard enough to recruit in the first place. The shame of it now is you have to keep recruiting that same kid over and over and over every year to make sure he doesn't leave. You got to keep going back and saying, okay, everything okay now? Can we do
Yeah.
anything more? What do you need?
It's a lot of money, but I'm glad
Yeah.
I'm not a coach.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break here. Plenty more coming up here on the Rip City Drive. Shacker is now using the in bumps to send messages to the powers that be. This particular song, this is Static X, Dwight.
Yeah.
This song is called Cold.
Perfect.
As you'll hear right here, this is how Shacker feels right now.
He was doing laps inside the room in there. I couldn't believe it.
Cold was so cold. I love it. I just love it. It's well played, Shacker. Well done. That's why you're the best. All right, hey, we got to get into some hot topics here, Dwight, and it's sports entertainment related. First off, new episodes, a series within a series of Dark Side of the Ring from the Vice people. You got a new little one called Who Killed WCW.
Mm-hmm.
Did you catch any of that? It dropped.
I watched the first episode.
It's interesting that they can continue to go to the well over and over on WCW, whether it was the Monday Night Wars documentary that they did on WWE Network a while back, all sorts of miniseries they do on it. Now you got this one. The only part that cracks me up is my guy. I love him to death. If there's a celebrity that I love, it's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. But of course, he finds a way to get in on this and do some interviews. And it's like, I get that you were there. You were a pivotal part of Raw. You were also at that time still coming up through the mid card, right? You weren't quite The Rock yet. You were in the Nation of Domination, and you were fighting for the IC title. But you weren't in WCW, right? You need to give me Stone Cold, right? We need the Ringmaster, right? Give me Mick Foley, who was in WCW, Cactus Jack, right? Yeah. Give me Paul Heyman, Paul E. Dangerously, right? Mm-hmm. Like, he was there for a while. Give me more interviews with The Undertaker, because what was that? Was he Texas Red or something like that?
He even used his real name, I think. Mark Calloway, I think.
Yeah, I think it was like Mean Mark Callos or something like that. But either way, he was there. Triple H, Jean-Paul Levesque, right? He was there in WCW. Give me more of the guys who lived both sides and understand it a little bit, but not less of The Rock. But either way, what are your thoughts on the death of WCW? That we can still go to it 24 years later.
Yeah, I prefer that they just stuck to the Dark Side of the Ring episodes. It's a really good series. For people who haven't seen it and were even borderline wrestling fans, they focus on events, or more often particular wrestlers who might have had a problem with drugs, alcohol, or just the way they were treated. They go into all kinds of stories about these guys. Maybe they were better than they were ever featured. They never got a break. But it was just kind of stories about these guys that you never heard before. And a lot of really good footage, interviews with the people involved. I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed what they've done with it. And I think it's in like the 5th season now. And it's been good every year.
Yeah, it does keep going along. But what's so interesting to me is what WWE, I think they're sitting on a gold mine, right? And I think they're too stubborn to use the IP, because especially with Vince, he put the final nail in the WCW coffin, so there's no need to bring that brand back. But the only reason you make another miniseries of Who Killed WCW is because when you put WCW on something, people still want to watch. People are intrigued by it. Mm-hmm. If WWE
was really good.
It was. But if WWE wanted to make another offshoot of one of their brands, they already have 20,000 shows. Like, why have a WWE SmackDown and a WWE Raw? Why didn't you have a WCW and rebrand it and create something completely wholly different than what you got? You have a gold mine right there, because people want it. People like it. I play the WWE 2K video game series, and one of the very first things I do is go into your own little universe. Is I create a WCW brand.
Oh, really?
Because I love WCW. It was great back in the day.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed their commentators, the way it was presented.
Larry Zbyszko. It's great.
Larry Zbyszko.
Bobby the Brain Heaton.
Gordon Soley was their play-by-play guy, and he was very good in those days. I liked him. They had Jim Ross for a while, too.
They did. I have an old trading card of him when he's in WCW.
Yeah.
But Mean Gene Okerlund.
Was he there?
He was. He always gave the number for the WCW hotline. It was like 909-9900. A big free agent is about to sign with WCW. Who could it be? Call the WCW hotline. Like, yeah, he was great.
Yeah, he said in an interview he made more money with those phone numbers than working for WCW.
That's funny.
Probably did.
That is pretty funny. But anyway, the death of WCW. I'm gonna watch. I watched it. I love it. WCW at a time they did so many things great, and then boy howdy did they run that thing into the ground there at the end. It's interesting because nobody blames one guy. You got a camp that blames Vince Russo. You got a camp that blames TBS. You got a camp that blames Bischoff. Like everybody.
Eric Bischoff gets a lot of blame.
Yeah. See, but it's hard to blame Bischoff because Bischoff also was kind of the brainchild behind what the NWO, which changed wrestling forever.
Right in Hulk Hogan.
The Crow Sting storyline changed wrestling forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like Vince Russo put Judy Bagwell on a forklift. So,
yeah.
But at the same time, you still talk about it this many years later. So. Keep an eye out for that. But the reason I brought that up and want to tie it back into Dark Side of the Ring is, again, Dark Side of the Ring is a great series that tells you a lot of the stories that maybe you haven't known, or does deeper dives into stories that are well known, like the relationship between Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth, right? And the Chris Benoit one is, I think, one of their best ones. And try to watch that without shedding a tear. Very well produced, very well done. But you happen to stumble upon some information over the weekend that they're maybe looking to do an episode in the future. They're putting out their feelers, that is, with some very, very Portland ties to that, and that is with Billy Jack Haynes.
Yeah, I got a call a few days back from, actually it was a text first from somebody who was a researcher for Vice TV and Dark Side of the Ring, and said that they were putting together or exploring the possibility of putting together a documentary, a Dark Side of the Ring episode on Billy Jack Haynes. So she asked if I had some information about him, if I knew him, and if so, could she talk to me? And I said, yeah, I knew him. I met him a few times, and I'd be happy to talk to her. So we set it up, and she called yesterday, and we talked on the phone for about a half hour, and I was surprised at how well-informed she was. She'd done a lot of research already and knew a lot about him that I was surprised she knew. But, I could tell they kind of liked to do this, and they had a lot of information. They were just having a little trouble separating fact from fiction, which is not hard to understand, Chris.
Especially in wrestling.
Well, in wrestling overall, but Billy too I think he had a tendency to exaggerate a little bit, or probably even make a few stories up because they were funny or they sounded good or whatever. But I should tell you that he once approached me. I had done 2 books on the Trailblazers. I was writing columns at the Oregonian. I was the 4-time-a-week sports columnist at the Oregonian. But I was friends with the longtime promoter, Don Owen. We became, over time, great friends. And I say he was a great man because of all the things he did for charity that nobody ever knew about. It was all anonymous, but he was a great guy. Anyway, I got to know Buddy Rose. I got to know Roddy Piper particularly, and met several times with a few other guys. I did a sequence for the Oregon Journal on the road with Apache Bull Ramos, which was a really fun story. I went on the road with him for a few days and wrote about what it was like to be a heel in wrestling. But anyway, she wanted to talk about Billy, and I told her. He approached me about doing a book, and I said, well, do we know you have enough to make a book? So he started telling me his stories. And frankly, some of them were too crazy to even believe. I mean, it's like, no, this can't be true. Oh, yeah, it's true. It's true. And I'll write it. And I said, well, you got to remember now, Bill, if you write it, that means you're responsible for it, and you could get sued for it if you couldn't prove that it happened. No. It's real. I said, okay, well, I'll talk about it with you. I went out and got him a recorder, gave him, in those days, it was probably a cassette tape recorder of some sort. It wasn't a digital recorder. And I gave it to him. I said, here, take this. I want you to record your best stuff, bring it back to me, and I'll listen and we'll decide if this would be the backbone of a book. He said, yeah, it sounds good. But I warned him. I said, Bill, now, sports books aren't going to make you a lot of money. Just so you know that. If you do a best-selling sports book, something really good, you might make $20,000. Oh, geez, that all? Yeah. Because I think he was kind of in between federations. He wasn't really working. So I could tell that didn't go over real well with him. But he took the tape recorder, said he'd call me or he'd come by again. And he was at my houseboat in those days. And I said, okay, I'll see you. Never heard another word from him, ever. He still has the recorder. Probably doesn't have it now because he's in prison or jail at least. But I always liked Billy. I thought he, down deep, was a good guy, but he had two sides to him. And I think he'd even admit that. He got involved with some bad characters at times. There are stories. And she heard probably more stories than I did about things. I think he was an enforcer, self-admitted enforcer for one of the biggest, nastiest gangs in town, involved in car thefts and chop shopping and probably some drug deals, things like that, and a couple other things. And now he's in prison for shooting his wife. He's been accused of that, and I believe he's admitted that, but we'll see what happens in that trial. But I think they like doing the jailhouse interviews too. And they've talked to his attorney, and apparently Bill is somewhat open to the idea of doing this. So it'll be interesting to see if it comes to fruition, whether they actually do it or not. But I know they'd already interviewed some of the guys, the Grappler, and who else? What was his name? He was with Ed here for the comedy. He wrestled under about 3 different names in Portland.
Yeah, I can't remember myself.
Yeah, but anyway, they've interviewed several other people that wrestled about the same time. He's tried, after Don Owen gave him his big break, a local kid, a Franklin High School kid, he started another federation in Portland, in Oregon City, by the way, against Don Owen.
Oh, wow.
And it didn't fly. It didn't work. It's really hard to start one of those.
Yeah, there's stories to be told there. Here's a question for you for around that time. You look at the old territory days, right? So
Yeah.
I'm too young. All I remember was, again, WCW, WWF, then one federation ruled the world, and now you got a few of them. But back in the day when you had Mid-Atlantic and you had WWF up in New York and Georgia and all that, just how big of a player was Portland wrestling?
Well, it was a great developmental territory. That's what it was. And guys came here. Sometimes it was their first territory. More often, they'd been at other territories and came here because of the reputation that Don paid well. They drew well here. It was on television, so they could have some video evidence of what they did. The wrestlers were offered the opportunity to do promos on TV. So they had a chance to really grow their careers here. And that's why we had so many guys come through here that eventually ended up being really good, including Piper, including,
Bourne was here for a while too, wasn't he?
Oh, his dad, Tony, and Matt. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And
Doink the Clown, for those of you.
Yeah, Doink the Clown. And then we had people like Dynamite Kid was here. Jesse the Body Ventura was here. Mr. Perfect was here. Andre would do it a couple times a year here. We had some really good wrestlers. Dutch Savage was big here.
The Rock once tweeted that
his dad.
Yeah, he spent like a year and a half living in Vancouver when he was young because his dad made a stop here.
That's right. He grew up partially in Vancouver and hanging out at the Portland Sports Arena as a kid.
Yeah.
That was a part of his childhood, and that's why I think Portland was included in that series they did on the territories.
Right.
They did that series, and Portland was included. But they had some good wrestlers here. Many of them have passed, actually. But, the Sheik was here for a while, Iron Sheik, doing his juggling the
Right.
pins deal, and so many good. And I had great times. I took my kids out there. my son and his friends really loved going out there, and it was a fun thing. I grew up watching it on television. My mother actually watched it on TV. It was on decades in Portland through 3 or 4 different commentators, and really enjoyed it.
Wow.
Started off in the Portland Armory, and then that turned into the theater downtown because the Armory abandoned it. But then they moved out, and Don bought his own place, a former bowling alley, and called it the Portland Sports Arena, and people told him he was crazy. About 5 years later, I was invited to the mortgage burning ceremony that Don had a big party. Some of the wrestlers were there, and I was fortunate enough to be invited, where he burned the mortgage.
In 5 years.
It was about 10 years before it was supposed to be burned. Paid it off way ahead because they did so well.
That's
and
awesome.
I was happy for Don because he now had control of the parking, the concessions. He had everything right under his roof. And I would answer the phone. That's how I got to know him. I'd answer the phone at the Oregon Journal, and he'd call the results in. And I'd always say, Don, why don't you call me before the matches? You know what the results are going to be. Oh, that's not true. This is real. But we didn't have much of a crowd tonight. I had to sweep up the popcorn and feed it to my kids this week. He would say that like every week.
Oh, I love it.
He was a
Sounds
great
sounds
guy.
like a good time. So there you go. There might be some dark side of the rings in the future with some Portland ties there. And yeah, that's definitely a story to tell. Go from being a wrestler to murdering your wife allegedly. So yeah, that's a story to tell for sure. All right, Chris Burkhardt here, the Godfather, Dwight Jaynes. We're gonna take a break. When we come back, we're gonna hand out some high fives. Don't go anywhere. Rip City Drive continues right here in your home of the Blazers. Rip City Radio 620. All right, it is high five. Let's start with the Godfather. You got a high five to hand out today?
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it to the Los Angeles Lakers for making a pitch to Dan Hurley. I don't know if it's going to work, but they're going after a real legit coach for that team.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, thank you.
And Shacker, what do you got?
I got one. I want to give one to the USA cricket team.
I saw that.
Yeah, they beat Pakistan at the men's T20 Cricket World Cup in Dallas, Texas.
What
Take
is
that, Pakistan?
Yeah. One of the great teams in the world, by the way. Pakistan is always good in cricket.
Yeah, they're the runner-up in the last tournament a couple of years ago.
What does T20 mean, though?
I just know.
I don't know.
I think does it mean under 20 or anything like that?
I thought it was the top 20 cricket teams.
I can't believe we are in the top 20. It's the first time we've ever entered, I think.
And USA is hosting this tournament.
Where in the world are they playing cricket in this country? Bahamas?
Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas. The hotbed of cricket.
Dallas, Texas. Hotbed of cricket. That one's been going on a while because the World Cup's going on. People like cricket
Yeah.
fans are like, and people think baseball players are good. And then baseball fans are like tweeting pictures of, monster 12-6 curves and be like, yeah, no cricket player could hit this. And it's just funny. It's funny to watch sports war at each other when it's just like, come on now.
Every once in a while on Top 10 Plays on SportsCenter, you'll see a catch made by a cricket player. They don't wear gloves. They have to catch barehanded. So, and sometimes you catch a ground ball, you have to throw it at the wicket and hit the wicket before he runs back, which is kind of crazy.
Sounds like something made in Boston.
Yeah, it's like a wiffle ball game you play in front of your yard.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know. I don't understand cricket, but I'm sure if I watch it, I like it. That's just how I am. You know what sport I do enjoy that's grossly underappreciated here stateside? Rugby. Rugby's a fun sport. Yeah. Rugby gets a high five just for the hell of it.
Huh. It is a good sport. Rough and tumble.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a great documentary. You can find it on some streaming service. I think it's Amazon, but it's Pacific Warriors, and it's a story. It's a documentary about how Samoa and Tonga and Fiji are just these tiny little islands in the middle of the Pacific that just produce like the best rugby players on the face of the planet. And it's a really fun documentary. I highly recommend it if you like a sports doc. But I got a real high five, okay? Not ones that you just push the buttons when I talk. But my high five goes out to that big orange ball in the sky today.
Oh, there you go.
We don't get to see it. That's right. It deserves all of them because it's amazing.
Sunny day. She gets the high five.
It's a good reference there with all our wrestling. I know you've seen plenty of sunny days. Bret Hart didn't like that too much, right? So there's my question here for you. We went in on the deep dive on Dark Side of the Ring. And funny enough, someone tweeted at us after we did. Every time we talk wrestling, people message us. The wrestling talk, madly underrated. Think of a story in wrestling that hasn't been told yet on Dark Side or something like that you would like to see that deep dive.
Huh. That's tough. I wish you'd have given me some warning because I probably could have come up with something really, really good. I'd like to know something about the luchadors who have worn masks for like 20 years. Whichever one would be willing to do it, because there's some really good wrestlers, some luchadors, and they've been wrestling under a mask for like 20 years, 25 years. And I'd like to know why. Right? Why would you do that? Wouldn't you want the recognition that comes from a great career like that? Or do you just love living in anonymity?
Yeah, that's a good one. It is interesting because when those luchadors, they keep that on all the time. So like when we were at our former job at NBC, we got Kalisto to come in, and he came in and did some interviews with us. Came in wearing his mask.
Yeah,
like you don't know who he looks like.
The Destroyer used to do that. You'd see him walking around downtown on the street with his mask on.
Yeah.
Which now is illegal. You can't be doing that kind of stuff because you might be holding up banks or something.
Right.
But yeah, it would be publicity for him wrestling on that particular day.
Huh.
He'd go into a restaurant or something, and people, hey, what's going on? Of course, the Destroyer was very famous in those days. Very famous wrestler. Was in Japan for years. Wrestled in the Bay Area for years. He was really good. But yeah, I there was another one I thought of too that would be really good.
It's like, there's a
You
lot
could
of
do
them, but-
one on Ric Flair every year, a new one. He's
Every
already
year.
had 2 or 3.
You totally
I
could.
would watch every Ric Flair documentary you put out. Yes, I would. I'm just fascinated by Ric Flair.
Oh man, that's a good one. That's a really good one. I would like, you can't play it on radio because it doesn't do it justice. You and I've talked about it before. Like that perfect the him and Jay Lethal.
Oh God, funniest thing ever. If you've ever seen it, never seen it, go to YouTube. Jay Lethal is African American wrestler who does the best Ric Flair impersonation right in front of Ric Flair.
Oh yeah, he's so good though, because for a while there, Jay Lethal's character was Black Machismo. And it was a spin-off of Macho Man Randy Savage.
Right.
And he had, I mean, the mannerisms, the voice. Like, if you
Yeah.
closed your eyes, you thought you were listening to Macho Man, right? And oh, my gosh. Jay Lethal, massively underrated as a performer.
Oh, and they won't put him over at all in AEW. What a talent he is.
He was so good.
Yeah.
That interview is an all-time good one, though. No. Whoa, that's my line. That's my line. But like Ric Flair's the only guy I've ever seen. Like he'll take his suit jacket off and hit the ropes and then drop an elbow on his jacket.
Suit coat,
like,
yeah.
like it's just like, oh my gosh, that's funny. You know what's gonna happen though is if Dark Side of the Ring stays around long enough, there will eventually be an episode on all of the Vince McMahon stuff that's going down right now.
Oh, sure. Yeah, they'll have to be.
Definitely.
It'll be entertaining too.
Gosh, wrestling's the best. I think John Oliver